Okay, thank you so much for attending and watching the Election Protection Ambassador Training for our August and November special elections in 2023. My name is Courtney. I'm with the Ohio Voter Rights Coalition, and I'm here.
Hi, I'm Mia. I'm from Common Cause, Ohio.
Okay, so we're going to get started. So today during this training, our goals are going to be to talk about how we're promoting the nonpartisan election protection hotline, 866-R-VOTE. We're going to talk about providing voter education and helping make sure that voters know what to do to make sure that they can have their ballots casted. We'll talk about recruiting election protection poll monitors, and then we're going to talk about distributing this materials into our communities that have historically been disenfranchised. So our agenda today is that we will start with the overview and structure of election protection. We'll talk about the duties of an election protection ambassador. We'll get into sharing the hotline and distributing materials, and then how you can help a voter make a plan to vote. And then at the end, we'll talk about connecting with your regional lead and how to get materials so that you can actually start distributing.
So looking at the structure of election protection, the whole wide goal of election protection is to provide trusted nonpartisan information and help make sure that when people vote that, they successfully cast their ballot and it's counted, and to report and resolve any problems that exist.
So there's a few ways that you can get involved with election protection. Mainly, it's going to be being an election protection ambassador, being a poll monitor, and then finally being a peacekeeper. And these are all the people that are actually on the ground doing work.
So the call center is 866-R-VOTE is where people call when they have questions about voting. And that's what this is all about, is getting people to call that call center. And there are also other language hotlines that are associated with the 866-R-VOTE line, a Spanish line, an Arabic line, and an Asian languages line. So, depending on the person's language, they can call the appropriate number.
So all the texts and calls that come into the election protection hotline are secured in a database called R-VOTE Live. And at the end of every election, we go through all of the reports that have come in and we take the appropriate action, whether it's contacting a BOE or just doing whatever we can to resolve these issues in the future. So all of these things that are reported definitely help us improve things that are going forward.
So right now, in August, July and August, for the Ohio special election, the hotline is just a voicemail, but they will return your call. They say 24 to 48 hours, but it's probably going to be sooner than that. And then beginning in August, it'll actually be live people answering the phone.
So some of the main things that an ambassador is going to do is to promote that 866-R-VOTE hotline. People can only use this hotline if they know about it. So that's one of the main things that an ambassador is going to be doing, along with distributing election protection information and materials in the community. So that can be posters, palm cards, yard signs, posting on social media even. Ambassadors also help recruit for election day poll monitors and spread the word about poll workers. And then additionally, they're just trying to make sure that voters have the information so that they can make a plan to actually vote this year. So
point number one, telling people about the hotline. So it's really just, that's all it is. Tell people about the hotline. We want to make sure that the number is out there. The more people know about the number, the more people call and the more answers that we can provide. And so we have materials that we will talk about that you can distribute as you're informing people about the hotline.
And the ways that you can actually promote the hotline is through social media. This could be also just by talking to the people that you are encountering on a day-to-day basis, your friends, your colleagues. This also is just distributing our yard signs and getting those in places that people can see this information and know that they have a hotline to reach out to. Submitting newspaper blurbs is also a great way to make sure that people are getting this information and being able to see what we are able to provide. And then we have tons of palm cards and posters and just signs that can get put up on billboards and, in the disenfranchised communities that we are looking to get into. And then any sort of community meetings, if there's anything that's happening local on the ground, that is, getting people together, those are also great places to just be spreading this information.
Yep. So again, houses of worship, rec centers, coffee shops, libraries, all of these things, anywhere that you can think of. And these are nonpartisan. So a lot of places that wouldn't take, a candidate's flyer or something like that, they will take election protection information.
So this is one of the palm cards that we ask for our ambassadors to distribute. This is called our Beautiful Ladies card. This has obviously the hotline phone number. It lets people know that they can call or text it. And then additionally to this piece of literature, there's also the yard signs in black and white that say election protection. And they just give people the information that they need that we can put at polling locations and outside early vote centers. So that's also included in our election protection literature that Mia is currently holding up right now. So that's one of the other main materials that we are using, the palm cards and the election protection yard signs.
Okay, so another job that you have to do is actually to help recruit poll monitors, because again, the more people who know about the number, the better, and the more people that are actually at the polls doing poll monitoring. So, this is another one of your jobs.
And there's always a big need for poll workers. If you are looking to ask people to be a poll worker, the requirements to work the polls, and that's actually working the entire shift all day. So starting 5:30 a.m. and then you stay till the polls close at 7:30. And that's the people that are actually working inside of the polling locations. And then the eligibility requirements are just being a registered voter. You need to attend the training session. You need to be obviously available for this election. And then the other things that are on this list, but there's always a need for poll workers.
Now, another duty of an election protection ambassador is to just kind of be knowledgeable about our voting laws and help people make a plan to vote. So one of the things this year that's going to be a little bit different from other years is that we now have some new laws, a new law in Ohio, which has changed some of the ways that people vote because of HB 458. So the main thing is that to vote in person, whether on election day or early, you have to show a photo ID. We used to have some wiggle room there where if somebody didn't have an ID, they could show a bank statement or a pay stub or tax return or whatever. We can't do that anymore. And we also have stricter deadlines now for when we apply for a vote by mail ballot and when those vote by mail ballots have to be received, and for curing either a mail ballot or a provisional ballot. So all of those deadlines are a little tighter, and we want to make sure that people have that information.
Yeah, so like Mia mentioned, the voting ID requirements are a little bit different. So if you are voting in person, the only forms of ID that are going to be valid are going to be a driver's license, a state ID, a passport, a military ID, a National Guard ID, or a Veteran Affairs ID. And there's a couple examples in the pictures next to the list. So these are the only things that you can use, and it does not need to match your voter registration as long as your ID is valid, and it cannot be suspended. It can be suspended. It just cannot be expired.
Right, exactly. And one thing we haven't mentioned in these slides, but if a voter wants to vote and they don't have an ID, they can get a free state ID from the BMV. They just have to have all those underlying documents, and they can get help getting those underlying documents from an organization called Vote Riders. And we will make sure that anybody who's doing voter protection ambassador has that information. So just going on, just to reiterate, this is something that you all know already, but we want to make sure that, if you're an election protection ambassador, that you kind of have this, you have this information, very handy, that that there are 3 ways to vote in Ohio: by mail, early in person, or on election day. They're all good ways to vote. If you don't have an ID, the way to go is vote by mail. If you have a voter ID, voting in early is great. But of course, you can always vote on election day.
Yeah, so if you are going to be voting by mail, you have to fill out the request form, and then you need to turn that in. You can print the form online at voteohio.gov, and you should do that just because of the new laws that have changed. This is the form that is going to be best for you to use. But you need to have it into your Board of Elections by August 1st. But as we kind of show in this graphic, a lot of requests are to come in towards the end of the deadline. So requesting early and just getting it out of the way and returning your ballot is going to be the best thing that you can do if you're going to be voting by mail.
Absolutely. So the second option is voting early in person. Early vote has already started in Ohio, and you want to check the early vote hours because they have changed also. And one thing to mention is that there is no longer any early vote on the Monday before Election Day. So early vote goes all the way through the Sunday. That's August 6th. There's no voting on August 7th, and then Election Day is August 8th. If you don't have a valid ID when you go to vote, you will have to cast a provisional ballot, and then you'll be given an opportunity to come back in and cure that provisional ballot by showing your ID.
Yeah, and then you can always vote on Election Day. August 8th is going to be the most upcoming election. The polls are open from 6:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. And we always advise that you confirm your registration and polling location before you go to vote, just because we don't want anyone to be voting provisionally. Additionally, with this is the same exact ID requirements. Your address doesn't need to match, but it just can't be suspended. So just if you're going to be voting in person on Election Day, make sure you are checking all the boxes on what ID you need to have.
And of course, if you're an election protection ambassador, we're going to make sure that you have additional resources. You want to make sure that you're familiar with all the different things that people can, the information they can get at voteohio.gov or at vote411.org or at ohiovoterrights.org. These are all really useful sources that you can share with the people that you talk to.
Awesome. So we do have regional leads that are on the ground in many different regions all around Ohio. These are going to be the people that have the materials that you need. So once this is over, we're going to make sure that you get connected with your regional lead. We also have this document, which is the resource that Mia was mentioning before, that just has all the information on who the regional leads are, where they're at, and then just the materials that you'll need and where you can distribute them. So just kind of a summary of the things that we covered in this presentation. We'll make sure that you get after this, so we can be sure you get connected with everything that you need to get before you can distribute.
So that's really it. I mean, honestly, this is a program where, you can do a little bit, you can do a lot. You can go out and spread materials every day. You can just do it once, the more the merrier, and it's totally up to you. And it's just really about, being knowledgeable about voting and spreading the word about the hotline. And that's it. And we really appreciate you jumping in and being part of the election protection program that will make it easier for voters in Ohio to make sure that they can cast a ballot and have it be counted.
Absolutely. And if you leave this presentation and you have any more questions, comments, concerns, please feel free to reach out to me, and I'm happy to work with you and make sure that you have everything you need.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.